What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the video to my Storytime channel. So this is reading chapter 8 of this book, Soccer Duel by Matt Christopher, on page 45. Let's continue. It was funny, but his conversation with Turk hadn't made Bryce feel much better about things. He wasn't consumed by that burning fury anymore. A creeping guilt had taken its place. What would happen if Turk went overboard and really hurt Rennie Harding? Bryce wondered. In a way, it would be his fault, wouldn't it? Turk's comment about intensive care was kind of scary. Oh well, he consoled himself, it was too late to do anything about it now. He'd only told Turk to intimidate Rennie, hadn't he? Or maybe he said to hit him with a few hard fouls. He couldn't remember anymore. Bryce McCormack. Startled, Bryce came out of his reverie. His teacher, Miss Masselhoff, was calling his name. Yes, he asked, standing up. You're wanted in the office. Follow this young man. The office, Bryce repeated dumbly. The principal's office, said Mrs. Hasselhoff meaningfully. Bryce looked at the office monitor. It was Norm Harvey. Follow me, said Norm. I know the way, Bryce said, scowling as he brushed past Norman out of math class. What are you now, scowling as he brushed past Norman out of math class. What are you now, the principal's errand boy? Office squad, Norm explained. It's for extra credit, something you wouldn't know anything about. Shut up, you stupid nerd, Bryce said, grabbing the kid by the shirt. Norm warned him off. I think this is the kind of behavior the principal wants to talk to you about. Uh-oh. Bryce suddenly realized what was happening. That stupid fight he had with Chris Brown last week. He thought everyone had forgotten about that one. Sure enough, there was Chris sitting on one of the chairs in the principal's outer office. He sneered at Bryce, but Bryce didn't react. Principal O'Keefe came out, her secretary right behind her. You two boys know why you're here. I've come with a suitable punishment for you. Either you will sit in the school library for 3 hours and write an essay of 1,000 words or more about why violence is wrong, or you will have served on the trail cleanup Saturday up on Pyramid Mountain. I'll take the essay, Chris Brown said quickly. Bryce shot him a look. I'll go on the trail cleanup, he said. Anything but sit for 3 hours at the desk in the school library staring into Chris Brown's stupid face while writing an essay about why violence is wrong. Fine, said Mrs. O'Keefe. Here's an evaluation sheet for you, Bryce. Bring it back filled out and signed by the person in charge. Yes, Mrs. O'Keefe, Bryce said. This is going to be a real treat, Bryce thought, disgustedly. He hated work. He hoped Chris Brown would get an F on his essay and have to do it all over again. That weekend, Bryce showed up at Pyramid Mountain as directed. There was a crowd of kids and adults standing around the park headquarters. Hi, is this the trail cleaning detail? Bryce asked a man who seemed to be in charge. Yes, it is, and you are, the man asked with a pleasant smile. Bryce McCormack, Bryce said. The principal sent me down to help. He cleared his throat, embarrassed, avoiding the curious glances of the kids, some of whom he knew. All right, Bryce, the man said. I'm Mr. Sarlin, and this is the cleanup crew. Will your father or mother be joining you? Bryce shook his head slowly. No one had told him that this was a parent-kid event. Oh, brother, he thought, rolling his eyes. This is going to be worse than I thought. The man said, scratching his head. Hey, everybody, Bryce is going to be helping us today. Is there someone who isn't paired with a cleaning buddy? No one answered. Apparently, all the other kids had parents with them. That was fine with Bryce. He'd rather be alone anyway. Then, once the cleanup began, he could find a nice place to hide until it was all over. Hey, Mr. Sarlin, I'm here. The rear door of a car in the parking lot opened, and a thin boy came running toward them at blazing speed. Hey, wait a minute. Bryce knew that kid. It was... Hiya, Rennie. Glad he can make it, Mr. Sarlin said cheerfully. Bryce, you're in luck. Your trail buddy has just arrived. Bryce? Rennie said, stopping short in surprise. Hi, what are you doing here? I'll tell you later, Bryce said. Come on, let's get going. He was anxious to get away from the crowd of cheerful do-gooders. At Mr. Sarlin's direction, all the pairs came up to get their rubber gloves, garbage bags, and hedge clippers. Then, 2 by 2, they went off in different directions. Rennie and Bryce stopped at the head of a trail marked Swamp View. Bryce grimaced. Whoopee, this looks like fun, he said flatly. Rennie didn't seem to hear the sarcastic tone in his voice. One of us has to do the picking and clipping, the other one holds the bag. Which do you want to do? Rennie asked him. The bag, I guess, Bryce said, taking a super strength garbage bag from Rennie and flapping it open. Taking the bag was a no-brainer, Bryce thought, smiling to himself. The kid was a moron to even give him a choice. Rennie was going to do all the bending. Rennie was going to do all the bending and picking up of gross stuff. All Bryce had to do was hold the bag open. You sure you want the bag? Rennie asked dubiously. I'm sure, Bryce said firmly, closing the subject. Okay, then, Rennie led the way down the trail. He began picking up litter and tossing it into Bryce's bag. Within minutes, the bag was half full, sneaking and starting to get heavy. And they were just getting started. What do you say we take a break? Bryce suggested. You tired already? Rennie asked, looking gently surprised. We barely begun. What do you do when our bag is full? Bryce asked, hoping the answer would be, we're finished and we can go home. It wasn't. Well, when the bag is full, we tie it off and leave it at the head of the trail for the park rangers to pick up later, Rennie replied. Then we take another bag and start over until the 3 hours is up. I should have done the essay, Bryce muttered. If he knew he was going to get stuck with Rennie Harding, the kid who turned his dream into a nightmare, and holding a smelly bag of garbage for 3 hours, he would have done anything else and face suspension. For the next hour, Rennie picked up soda cans, paper cups, and other trash, tossed them into the bag, and attacked the weeds and saplings that threatened to choke off the trail. Bryce trailed behind him, surprised how much the kid seemed to be enjoying himself. It made him feel a little embarrassed for his own sour attitude. I think it's time for a break, Bryce said when he tied off his third bag. I'm breaking. Without waiting for Rennie to agree, he put down the garbage bag and sat on a felled tree trunk. Rennie sat down next to Bryce and wiped his brow with his t-shirt. Woo, sweaty work, he said, grinning, but it's all for a good cause, huh? Right, Bryce said, nodding. Right, though we could care less about hikers or nature lovers. So you were going to tell me how you wound up doing this, Rennie prompted him. Oh yeah, Bryce said, stalling. For some reason, he didn't want to tell Rennie the truth. Well, I used to do this with my parents when I was little, which was true. Bryce's mom had loved to volunteer for the whole family for charity work. My dad always hated it. He just wanted to stay home and watch the ball game. Maybe that's why he left home when I was in 3rd grade. Hey, my folks are divorced too, Rennie said, turning to stare at Bryce. Just last year. That's how come my mom and I ended up moving here. Huh? Bryce said, looking at Rennie in the eye for the first time. I hate my dad. Looking Rennie in the eye for the first time. I hate my dad. You? I don't hate him, Rennie replied slowly, but I am kind of mad at him. We were supposed to work on this cleanup project together, but he couldn't make it at the last minute. Rennie picked up a stray soda can and hurled it into the garbage bag with more force than he used before. Then your dad's a jerk, and so's mine, Bryce snorted. I never see him except when he drops off Christmas present, and then I make him sorry he did. Then I make him sorry he did. You don't really hate him. You don't really hate him, do you? Rennie asked. Sure I do, Bryce insisted. Why do you have to leave? He tore a stick off a nearby tree and started digging it in the trail of dirt with it. I don't know, Rennie said. I don't really get why my dad left either, but I do know I still miss him. Bryce felt a sick feeling welling up from the pit of his stomach. He clenched down hard on it. I don't want to talk about it, he said tightly. Okay, Rennie said, backing off. The two boys silent for a while, each brooding over his own thoughts. Well, I bet your dad is proud of you, even if you don't think so, Rennie said finally. You're good at so many sports. Baseball, lacrosse, track, soccer. I saw you in the all-state basketball tournament. You were awesome. Bryce felt a distinct flush of pleasure. Thanks, he said. You saw that? That was way over in Chickasaw. I made my mom take me, Rennie said. I'm not good at basketball, but I love to watch it, and you were the best one there. I don't know about that. The flying spin move? How do you do that? I do it in soccer, too, Bryce admitted with a sly smile. Suddenly the kid didn't seem so bad to him anymore. He was actually okay. And hey, it wasn't his fault he was a good player. No way, Rennie cried. Airborne or on the ground? Sort of both, Bryce said, trying to explain how he did his patented move. He got up and demonstrated. You wait for the defender to commit. C. Then when he does, just use his momentum and spin off him, depending on which way he goes. Clear the ball between your legs, then let it go before you hit the ground. Awesome, Rennie shook his head in deep admiration. I can never do that. Nobody but you could do it. Aw. You know, ever since I moved here, I wanted to play soccer like you. Really? Bryce thought back to October. Which team were you on in the fall? I wasn't. I got here after the season started, and all the teams were set. I just came down every week and watched. Mostly your games, actually. I'd stand there imagining myself a center striker. Rennie laughed, remembering. Funny, huh? That's what nobody knew about you, Bryce said. Well, we've got nothing to be ashamed of. You play a good little game. Rennie beamed. You know that day in Conroy's you came up to me and encouraged me, he asked? You're really nice about it. I mean, we beat you, but you didn't hold against me or anything. I thought that was really cool. Looking into Rennie's open, honest face, Bryce felt a little twinge of guilt. He remembered that day at Conroy's all right, when he had approached Rennie to see what he was all about, not to be really nice. Thinking about that day reminded him of his conversation with Turk Walters and the malicious grin on Turk's face. The twinge of guilt turned into a much bigger pang. Hey kid, I mean Rennie, Bryce said suddenly. Yeah, Rennie asked. He must have sensed the importance of what Bryce was about to say because he looked at him very seriously. You know the game tomorrow? Bryce shifted uncomfortably on the log. Well, I heard a rumor. Rennie held up his hand. I bet I heard the same rumor, that Coach Harrelson is going to be there to check out the players, right? He grinned at Bryce. You know, I overheard them talking about you last week. You couldn't believe how good you were. You were shooing for the starting spot in the junior varsity next year. Bryce stared at Rennie. Coach Harrelson had said something about made Rennie think he wanted him, Bryce, to be a center striker, but the coach had also said make that great things about Rennie's playing. Had Coach Harrelson made up his mind yet? He had at least one more game to watch Rennie. But if the Blue Hornets beat the Orange Crush tomorrow, then it would be Bryce's Yellow Jackets against the Rennie Blue Hornets in the best-of-3 championship series. Coach Harrelson would see Rennie play on not once, but at least 3 more times. Until recently, Bryce wouldn't have worried about his competition, but now he wasn't so sure he'd come out on top when compared to Rennie. The thought burned him. So was I right? Was that the rumor you heard? Rennie asked, or was there something else you wanted to tell me? Bryce knew he should warn Rennie about Turk. He knew that Rennie might even get hurt if he didn't, but the thought of having to face Rennie in the championship just made him choke on the warning. He couldn't get the words out, he just couldn't. Rennie was still looking at him, waiting. Bryce forced himself to say something. Yeah, that was the rumor, alright, but, do you mind? A little advice in the game. Try to be a little more aggressive. You've got to throw yourself at the ball more. I mean, I know you're not big like me, but you still have to act like it sometimes, or other kids on the other team might try to push you around, intimidate you. Know what I mean? There, Bryce thought. If the kid can't take a hint, too bad. That's as much warning as he's gonna get. You're saying I should play more like you? Rennie asked with a grin. Gee, it'd be great if I could. Want to go out there and pretend to be me? Bryce tried to laugh along, but it wasn't easy. Really, try to be a little more selfish too. I mean, if you got the shot, take the shot. Otherwise, they'll figure out you're gonna pass off every time they start covering you better. Got to keep surprising them, doing the unexpected. Well, I guess you're right. I guess I'm a little scared to get hurt sometimes. Some of the other kids are so much bigger than me. Bryce thought about Turk Walters again and swallowed hard. Even though he didn't want Rennie's team to win, he sure hoped the kid got through in tomorrow's game without getting hurt. Well, we better get back to work, Rennie said, getting up. Thanks for the advice. He suddenly stuck out his hand. I feel like we're friends now, sort of. Sure, Bryce agreed, tossing it off. He managed to shake Rennie's hand, but he couldn't bring himself to look the kid in the eye. Come on, he said, flapping open his new garbage bag. Let's get busy. Oh yes, that's chapter 8 of Soccer Duel by Matt Christopher. Take care, everybody. Another video from my Storytime channel.